see who is in the call, but very warm welcome to everyone. So finally, we managed to organize this webinar basically for our regional colleagues. And thanks a lot for joining this call. It's two of us, Rosie and myself, responsible for today's discussion. And Rosie will really make a backup in case there is a cut in a connection or something. She can easily take over this discussion. Okay? So, Rosie, can we move to the second slide?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So what are the objectives of today's session? We want to make a quick draw, if I may say so, of SOS RBM approach. We want to introduce RBM content, what the RBM is in our understanding, what is for SOS organization, for our federation, and basically, most importantly, to focus and explain what does it mean basically for member associations and for programs to have RBM implemented. Because result-based management that is being developed in SOS currently is mainly focused on children's village programs, and respectively we are supporting member associations to put in place respective processes, tools, in order to comply with RBM requirements. Apart from this, of course, we are, as you know, already somewhere in the middle phase as regards to 2018 of implementation of RBM in the region, and many actions have already happened, and this is what we want to share with you. What is the status quo of implementation in the region? What are some trends as seen by us, specifically Rosie and myself and other trainers who are responsible for implementation process? Also, we want to tackle very shortly regional RBM project objectives. I will explain what it is all about in a while, and also to give you a little bit of outlook of key milestones for years to come, basically till 2020, so to say. And also at the end of this session, we will have, of course, time for question and answers. In general, we have planned 1.5 hours. I hope it will be enough. It's very difficult in this now setting to make a session really interactive, but we will try to do our best. And please feel free to post your questions in a chat box. Rosie will follow them up, and we will have points of time where you can ask those questions. Okay, Rosie.
Yeah.
You hear me well, right?
Yes, I think so. If you can't hear Katie properly throughout the call, please just unmute and let us know, because, yeah, I can't see the chat at this point. But, yeah, so just unmute yourself and let us know if there's any technical issues or sound problems.
Okay, so next slide, Rosie, please. Okay, question to everyone. Volunteers, what do you see on this picture? What do you think went wrong and why? Any ideas of this picture and of what has happened?
Looks like a good way to like get rid of a child you don't like, right?
Looks like a very quiet playing ground, which is actually nice for parents.
You can see who has children and who doesn't. I don't dare say anything.
Okay. Any other ideas? Interpretation?
Like laziness, because they didn't bother to finish it off.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, quite clear. I mean, most probably intention was quite positive. Let's hope. And the idea was to create a nice playing yard for children. But obviously and definitely something went wrong. At some point of planning or implementation of this beautiful idea. And this is, in a way, a symbol. And the question is if anyone, took any lessons from what has happened, because since the picture still exists, most probably, it's being left, and no idea if those learnings were incorporated in any of other similar projects or initiatives. Of course, it's kind of a funny symbol of that could be nicely connected to the result-based management. Rosie, could we move to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
Result-based management is would that be related to the project or a program or a single initiative, where it is clear that without clear direction and joint commitment, achievement of results is really quite difficult. And results may be whatever positive intentions we have, without properly planned and implemented process, results may lead to something similar that we saw in the picture before. So when we are talking about management, it's a management strategy. It means that it's responsibility of everyone, basically, and that on the first side of management team, would that be management on the level of national association or on the level of project, to be responsible to set up certain processes in organization to make sure that the objectives that are being planned initially are quite clear, they are jointly agreed, and then all processes that are built around are leading to achievement of those objectives and those results. And if we can think about how we can translate this basically approach of being focused on results while we are planning our services, projects and interventions, being focused on results when we're implementing them or coming to the stage when we have to see what the results were achieved and how this can inform further development of our services and interventions. There is one, so to say, key requirement or key idea of building projects, services, programs, interventions. And Rosie, could we move to another slide, which could be connected or framed by...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's basically doing nothing
Hello and Senko.
Okay.
Yeah, I also tried it, didn't work.
Katie, just 1 second. Some colleagues keep on dropping out of the call.
Sure.
So you don't seem to be the only one with internet problems. Just 1 second.
Good to know.
Okay. Mm. Okay. Yeah. There's about 5 or 6 colleagues actually that were connected but aren't connected right now.
Didn't we have some updates here, kind of, in Austria this morning? Maybe something isn't functioning well.
I'm not sure. Okay. So apparently yesterday there was a webinar as well where something similar was going wrong, I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know how to solve this issue right now. It seems Vienna-based colleagues have no problems, but a lot of colleagues sitting outside have some issues. Yeah, we're recording the session, So I would
Okay.
suggest to continue with the presentation and to hope that, that colleagues can join as we go along, or otherwise, re-listen to the recording afterwards. Sorry about that.
Okay, can I continue then, Rosie? So crucially important for RBM is so-called result chain, which basically clarifies the logic of program by showing how what you do basically leads to the changes you want to see. And in these result chains, there are basically different levels of results, which could be formulated as a short, medium, and long-term result. And in RBM terminology, they are known as impact, long-term results that are making changes on the levels of communication. Even outcomes, which are more mid-term results and are basically showing behavioral changes that we are expecting to achieve with our activities and services, and more short-term results that are basically results of our immediate activities and interventions.
Ketty, we can't hear you right now.
Okay, now?
Yes, now it's better. Yeah.
Okay, and it's very important to understand and clearly know the entire logic of your intervention, including all types of results that you are planning for, in order to be able really to observe the change you want to achieve. What used to happen up till now in the organization, and that I'm sure many of you are quite well aware of, organization used largely to be focused on activities and short-term objectives that we are, of course, successfully, in most cases, achieving in our programs and in our projects. And this can be observed all over. When you take one typical report, one typical report from National Association, you can recognize there that most of would have been narrative descriptions or even some statistical data which is provided as reports from the side of National Association as regard to annual work completed are mostly connected to the level of activities and immediate results that they have managed to achieve. With simple examples, you can find there a lot of information about that so many children were taken to theaters or received some trainings, in a best case, for instance, for development of youth employability skills, or caregivers in family strengthening projects had got trainings on development of parental skills and so on and so on. But this is usually where the information is usually cut, or which is the highest level of information that is being provided and basically collected even on the level of member associations. Of course, I don't want to generalize. There are different practices, and there are some, so to say, natural or intuitive pioneers of result-based management approach already in the region among member associations. But basically, this is what we are usually getting, unless there are some really high-level strategic indicators which are being collected on the level of entire federation, and respectively national association have to submit this data and this information that inform us about higher level results that we are achieving. But in fact, behind the skin, what is remaining behind the skin is basically information about, okay, we have provided so many trainings on improvement of parental skills, but so what? Did parents in family strengthening programs, for instance, have changed their behavior as a result of these services and interventions? Did the life of children drastically improved as a result of these actions? And what is most important in this case, we usually don't know quite well. We don't receive and we don't collect and we don't investigate. We do not analyze properly this information. And what is most important is that this information or this this information or the logic that this is exactly what we want to achieve cannot be found even in leading documents that are in place on the level of programs and even sometimes on the level of national assembly. Because in order to make the entire picture of changes you want to achieve in your program really clear and available, you need to use in your program certain tools. And one of those tools, basically, I'm sure well known for many of you, for instance, is logical framework or result framework, or on a more higher level theory of change that basically defines your intervention logic very clearly and then connects to these all respective processes of monitoring, evaluation, learning from the results on the level of program, on the level of national association. Based on piloting of RBM approach, we clearly realized that such mostly in those projects that are related to public funded programs, yes? And our colleagues from this area, from fund development and communication, actually have invested already a lot during last years in order to make sure that program and project coworkers do possess those skills to frame their projects within the result-based management thinking. But as regards to the rest of the other type of our services, and in this case I'm mostly talking about alternative care, we are basically continuing to do business as usual, having some general ideas, knowing in our minds what we want to achieve, but in most of the cases not being able to properly formulate this and respectively to build entire systems that will support us to monitor and evaluate whether those results have been achieved. This is basically planned, hindered by the implementation of result-based management to make sure that our co-workers in projects and programs have clear understanding, awareness of what does it mean to plan programs being focused on results, to monitor them, to collect learnings, and basically build their further strategic decisions and development of services and interventions based on those learnings. Rosie, can we move to the next slide, please? What ideally we would be willing to know? I mean, this is one of the example and data which I just derived from program database for alternative care, which informs us, for instance, about the reasons for exit from alternative care in 2018. You can see that this is exactly what is the information that we are interested or would be ideally interested to collect if we have properly implemented result-based management. Unfortunately, even now with different systems and tools that we have in place, we still cannot be proud of our of having holistic system on collecting diversified information and data about overall and mid-term, long-term results that we are achieving with our services in the interventions. But this is one of the type of results that we want to see and want to collect and continuously analyze in order to inform further and change something in our services to improve quality and improve achievement of results. One can see here, for instance, that during 2018, already we had quite high number of children who were reunified with their families of origin. Respectively, the question comes into play. Okay, what are the reasons behind? Yeah? Is it connected with our admission process, or is it something that we are really striving at, and reunification is one of our key objectives, and that's why we are quite successful? Or is it basically unintended results, and in fact, our gatekeeping system is not that well working in the organization? So this kind of information can give us a lot of insight into how we are implementing currently projects and what needs to be changed, if anything. So can you move to the next slide, please?
Mm-hmm.
Another example of results-based data collection and collecting information about long-term results is, for instance, the situation of caregivers sometime after they have exited family strengthening programs. This is example again derived from the program database. Example of one specific country which is actually perfectly implementing follow-up process on former FS caregivers, and one can distinguish here what is the situation of former program participants in FS in terms of basically livelihood, right? Source of income and living conditions. Yeah, and this is exactly information on the results that should ideally, in this specific member association, inform further development of services and intervention. Rosie, can we go on?
Yeah. So to RBM is complementary.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it has to be beared in mind that RBM is absolutely complementary to existing management approaches. It is connected to our existing processes in the federation, and does not matter from which way we start. If we start from federation strategy and midterm planning process, I want even to say that midterm planning process and the shift towards 3 years planning cycle was actually even to some extent driven by the RBM thinking and RBM approach in the organization. Respectively, also the processes are being connected, and currently we are trying from different responsible groups, so to say, on the level of international office, and when it comes also to our regional responsibilities, to make sure that these processes, would that be planning or reporting or monitoring, are aligned with RBM thinking and approach as much as possible. Same could be mentioned on the level of individual child, because result-based management could be perfectly applied and is basically applied to some extent also on the level of individual and family development, and connected perfectly to case management process on the side of individual and family development in terms of planning for results and development of children and families. And as regards to the system, it is respectively connected to a program database which provides and gives the possibility to derive respective data and inform our development on the level of national association as well as strategic development of the whole federation. So could we go to the next slide, please? RBM development went through different stages in the organization, and it's clear, it has to be mentioned that request was initially for RBM development initiated by PPPN network, and RBM is of course connected to Prague guide, which support similar processes and their implementation in public funded projects. But as I've mentioned already, we realize that it's not just enough it's not enough to have this approach implemented in case the requirement is coming from donors. We internally in the organization want also to have similar approach implemented on the level of all types of services and other type of services, which are, and that was one of the reasons that basically gave a foundation or was a trigger for development of SSRBM approach. And you know that the project was basically initiated in a very structured and proper way in 2016 when it was led even by colleagues from our region. Nicola was responsible for the first phase of implementation where the RBM concept was developed and approved. And then in 2017, as further evaluation, further development of this process, RBM International Policy Support Document and Toolkit was developed by International Project Team and endorsed by Management Council end of last year, basically. It's quite new, I have to say. Next slide, Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
In order to make RBM, so to say, digestible and applicable on the level of program, it has been decided to divide, let's say, RBM into several levels, in a few levels. And for us, major objective is to support national associations to implement RBM in such way that all programs can function on a standard level of RBM in place. What does it mean? Behind each of those levels that you see in front of you, would that be basic level, standard level, or advanced level, there is certain set or collection of different processes and tools that are respectively required to be put in place by member associations and specifically by programs. And in this case, once member associations and programs achieve standard level, we can be sure that their programs are focused on the results during planning, monitoring, implementation, reporting phases, and of program implementation. Next slide, please, Rosie.
Yep.
Program life cycle, which is, as you know, nothing new. Consists of different phases of planning, monitoring, evaluation, and phase of collecting and using results for informing next stage of planning of the program. And on each stage of the program life cycle, we have defined different sets of tools that these respectively could be assigned either to the basic RBM level, standard RBM level, or advanced RBM level. Rosie, could you please show us what are the tools that are connected? So you are on a basic level,
yes.
Right? So when we are talking about result-focused planning of programs, here expectation towards program C to have in place at the first place, I would say, result framework developed for programs that will clearly define this result chain or intervention logic, which I showed you. You remember this arrow. When program co-workers jointly will define what are the objectives they want to achieve, and respectively what are those activities that will eventually lead them towards achievement of those objectives. Connected to this, programs are expected to develop concept nodes. And if up till now concept node development was mostly expected from new program planning from a planning process which basically defines the process for new program, from now on, as with implementation of result-based management, we expect all programs to develop concept nodes even for already long-term functioning, let's say, services, programs, and intervention. And that is a major difference between how we used to work up till now and what is the new. And of course, core difference here is requirement towards development of results framework and related to it to the results framework monitoring and evaluation system. Because basically you can develop beautiful results framework, you can beautifully describe what you plan to achieve, but in fact, if you are not monitoring and evaluating if those objectives were achieved, if you are not collecting the data, then basically it's just developed for the sake of being developed and is put somewhere on the shelf and is not being applied. And basically this is what we realized during the implementation phase, that there are many results frameworks developed especially for family strengthening projects, but they are not being applied in practice. They are not being utilized properly. So I will not go into each and every tool. You can see we are talking about monitoring system. At a basic level, we are talking about proper results-focused reporting system from the level of program towards national association. And we are talking about proper usage of results for further management of the program. Rosie, can you show what is meant by having a standard level of RBM in place?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see that now you have a set of additional tools that are also required for implementation of RBM. And in case on the top of basic tools and processes, program is capable to implement those standard level processes and tools, at the end one can say that this specific program is functioning with the standard level of result-based management system in place. So here we're talking more about existence of baseline. Here we're talking about different types of, for instance, about data quality assurance system. We're talking about evaluation processes that are being conducted with certain frequency and some other processes that are being requested. On the top of these, there also are some tools that are defined to be on to be related to the advanced level of RBM, but frankly speaking, they are not requested from member associations as a standard of implementing RBM in the organization. And if member associations achieve this advanced level, this is their just personal initiative, I would say. Of course, we can support them in this process, but it's not something that is requested from their side. Okay, we can jump over this part. Yeah, okay, not so, not so overwhelmed. And here, maybe I would like to stop for a while and give a possibility to ask questions about the content or about what basically does it mean for member associations to have RBM implemented in programs.
So the floor is open for any questions that you might have. If you have a question, it would be easiest if you just unmuted and asked. Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, I just wanted to ask if you could share with us maybe some good practices on perhaps the rollout of the RBI implementation, and if any member associations that have already started implementing it, what their experiences are. It's always good to have like case studies or concrete examples of it.
If I understood it properly, you are asking about good practices in the organization, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I can already, even proudly, share some practices I think better to be focused on our region. For instance, SOS Uzbekistan, that all SOS Uzbekistan started implementation of RBM being focused on one particular program. And this is also possible. Rosie will tell us a little bit more about the process of implementation. But in general, when national associations start implementation of RBM, it's up to them to decide would they like to start in one program or would they want to be simultaneously focused on all programs in national association. So in case of SOS Uzbekistan, they picked up one specific program, which is Urgenç. And there were additional reasons behind, frankly speaking. The program is funded by with the support of PSA Luxembourg, and PSA Luxembourg and the respective donor agencies themselves were highly interested to make sure that RBM is put into practice. Moreover, it's even one of the requirements for member association to ensure that they will continue getting funding for this program. So after of course, it was not only our initiative, to be honest, that they progressed quite well with RBM. That's why I mentioned that PSA has also supported them and invested their knowledge and some resources into implementation of RBM. But after the RBM kickoff workshop, for instance, that was facilitated by Rosie and me, just almost 2 months ago, in member association, they have successfully developed and finalized results framework for one program, which is done with a quite a good quality, where one can say that the whole team of SOS Children's Village Program Urgenç set together to define the impact that they want to achieve on the level of community in this region where the program is functioning. They have clearly defined midterm results, what they want to achieve in a perspective of 3 years. And respectively, I mean, not talking about results for a 1 year perspective, then respectively, if we are talking, and I think if there are people, our colleagues from finance area, respectively, all the activities that they have budgeted for implementation of this implementation of this results framework are linked to their objectives. Activities. So basically, we have a case of simplified, let's say, but results-based budgeting, if we can say so. And as a logical next step, they have also developed really good, so to say, monitoring and evaluation plan, or a monitoring evaluation almost system, which will ensure that they are following up on implementation of this results framework, that there are people responsible for different parts, for data collection, for data analysis, and for reporting towards major stakeholders, would that be PSA, state partners, or respectively GSC. So this is one of the really good examples in my practice, because personally I am engaged in implementation of RBM for quite some time, having also experience of piloting it in another region. And to me, this is really one of the good examples. I don't know if it answers your question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have some other cases, like Macedonia is currently organizing really complex and very intense activities on raising awareness on RBM. They have grouped co-workers in a different, in the different, how to say, groups, right, Rosie, if we can say so, subgroups, where each project leader took over responsibility for raising awareness among team and staff, and this was the first step. They established national RBM team, which is composed by different functions, and they basically went through the all preparatory stages now to start practical implementation of RBM, which in September will develop into the workshops for finalization again of the result framework. So that would be another also quite good example of the process. Any other questions? Okay. Rosie, then I hand over to you, right?
Yeah, thanks very much, Kitty. Before we actually move on to explaining a little bit more about what implementation of RBM means in the region and for each and every member association, we also wanted to open up the floor to brainstorm a little bit with you guys on what benefits you see from RBM implementation for your area of work. And here I think it would be especially interesting to hear, from, I see we have CBI reps in the call, we have colleagues from HR, from fund development and communication. So it would be great to hear from you guys what sort of benefits you would see from results-based management implementation, or maybe you don't see any for your work. So yeah, feel free to share any thoughts that you have from your side. Caroline, please.
Yes, I just unmuted. Yeah, so for me, no, definitely. Most important, I would say, would just be to get closer to understanding what's going on and what are the results. Yeah, because I feel like in the work we do with boards, especially, we spend a lot of time looking at financial controls and so on. You know, we probably, I can say half the time in board meetings we spend just seeing the financial picture. So I'm really keen to know what's the picture in terms of our actual results in our programs. And I would definitely feel more comfortable in my work if I feel that I have a much better understanding of that, and also the boards too. So I'm very much looking forward, actually.
Thanks very much. Does anyone else want to share a comment or a thought about?
Just as Caroline mentioned, the financial focus in board meetings and discussions and so on. For me, this RBM completes the picture, yeah, from finance perspective, because you can really see then if one day we really do results-based budgeting and results-based accounting, that you can really see, and also from controlling perspective, this is interesting. Do we invest into the right things, or do we invest too much in one area, but we do not achieve the desired results? And this gives new opportunities for long-term steering, yeah. So that's why I'm so much in favor of this whole thing, and I see it so crucial and yeah, so important, yeah, for the coming years to continue, yeah, and really also from financial perspective to go further and deeper into the topic, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Wolfie. I mean, in terms of results-based budgeting, we're definitely not there yet. We'll have to see also with the upcoming ERP system whether that will be more results based and fit with our RBM approach. So we're definitely hoping that will improve the situation. And yeah, thanks a lot, Wolfie.
I think it will also give a better indication on quality issues, because if we see that results are not achieved, that children are not well performing at school, for example, or that children, are not finding jobs or whatever, it's an indication to have a closer look at what the program is actually doing, what kind of interventions they have or not have, and dig a bit deeper in order to improve the interventions and services.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
I want to add on this that with the time, RBM will of course bring additional KPIs in picture. Absolutely. And what we also plan in the future to follow up on the development of those results frameworks and take a look where there will be a similar, let's say, building blocks of expected results, and of course we'll build learnings. Just we have to be aware that it will take some time, of course. It's a learning and development process. And sometimes I'm confronted, frankly speaking, with very relevant questions, like how and when we're going to see that the member association of the program became more efficient, more effective with this RBM approach. It will take us a bit of time, but if we step by step follow on implementation, even country by country, I'm sure that it will give us additional information about the improvements and increased effectiveness and efficiency.
Definitely.
Now with the implementation process, now when you mentioned, Rosie, that there are HR colleagues in a call, I want to say that with certain practice that we have already gathered, we can see also a clear link with HR area, because obviously one of the key for implementation of RBM is the capacity of people, the capacity of program management. And definitely in years to come, we would need to invest in capacity building. RBM is not so much about, money that could be used for, I don't know, for what kind of activities. It's more about building capacity and using own knowledge and experience for putting properly result-based thinking into different processes. Yeah, that is very important. It's also, last week we had a global M&D meeting where we also were reflecting, how we can address different functions. Where is the fund development and communication interest in RBM? And we were saying, okay, this is also one of the great tools to work in fundraising area, because the more we can communicate explicitly the results we are achieving, the better, most probably, we can sell our products in future, our services. So there are many, many links with each and every function, and actually soon we will prepare some set of, so to say, question and answers on how RBM is connected to different working areas in our organization, and certainly I will share this, this document with you.
Great, thanks a lot, Ketty. Any final comments from anyone before we proceed?
What I wanted to say from comms perspective is, of course, that they are more and more interested in seeing the impact and are asking for this. And if we have the results, of course, it will be very helpful also. So it will help in our efforts for funding as well.
Yeah. Respectively, we are changing processes on a global level. They are now, I know, learned also recently that they are now working on revision, for instance, of even annual report template, to make it aligned with RBM approach and RBM thinking. So let's see. Processes around are also
developing.
Are taking care.
Maybe one more question, Katie, probably have addressed it, but I'm not sure. In terms of, programs developing log frames, like we have that in public funding, institutional funded projects, and now in the new RBM countries, to what extent are we encouraging now all countries to already start with this log frame development? Is that a decision we still need to take, or?
You mean non-RBM countries, non-RBM focused countries? So
yeah, exactly. Because it's a step that all of them could probably take, because they should have some competencies from public funded projects. So
Yes, exactly, Nicola. That would be an ideal situation. But what we can see, and capacities are there by no means, especially where we have public funding advisors. But unfortunately, what we can see, these people are highly busy with their own projects, and implementation of RBM for traditional, let's say, services or in traditional program units require investment for capacity building of staff. And it's very difficult to put it as a requirement, of course. That's why we have such a comprehensive process for implementation. Of course, we encourage whenever people have can find time and can initiate internally these processes, of course. But there is no, so to say, clear, let's say, goal and expectation that now everyone can immediately start.
But we can encourage, so both also TVI reps, or we can encourage that, because that's the direction it will go. So if countries can start already and feel they anyway have developed log frames for some of their projects, that they start to do that in a broader way, and we can obviously give feedback. And also, I think once we have some examples from the pilot countries how it could look like, then we can also share that, right?
Absolutely. I need just still to get permission, for instance, from Uzbekistan. I hope we will get it, and we'll gladly share. Definitely.
Nicola, just to connect it to your point, won't it become anyway a requirement to have a concept note for each program? So won't they anyway have to do, or it's not going to be sort of inbuilt into the concept note plus log frame process for everybody, right?
Yeah, that's where I don't know where we are at. Are we? Is that now a must for existing programs that they develop that, or that the program planning, or only the RBM countries, or I actually am not sure.
Basically, RBM countries, Nicola, in a way, because you are bringing this information in the RBM workshop, it's difficult for me to say must. But in general, if we take RBM entirely as a must and something where we are striving at, then definitely concept notes should be developed also for existing programs. But I would be a little bit hesitant now, and maybe even it's something that we need to take a decision on the level of region. If we now say, okay, every country, despite RBM country or not, to start development of concept notes for existing programs.
I think you're right, Carol, and for the new concept notes, we should actually insist. We haven't done that. So all the ones who started this year with the formerly called Reinnovation Project, I don't think they developed, unfortunately, log frames. We didn't insist on that. But we could probably in the future, at least for those ones.
Seems to make sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, to be discussed in R&T then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
One question, would that also apply for locally funded projects? Yes, right? We did that in the past. We asked also locally funded programs to have a log frame. Like the FSPs in Czech Republic or something like this.
I think as soon as a country implements RBM, then they should, and the others we can encourage.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's then basically up to the country to decide whether they would like to develop a log frame or results framework for the program in total, including all the different services that are being provided in a certain location, or whether they want to develop log frames or results frameworks for individual units or services. Yeah. So that's up to the countries to decide.
Correct.
All right. So I'm not going to go through all the benefits that we defined in this presentation, because you've mentioned all of them already. So I think we'll proceed now to talk a little bit more about implementation in the region to continue the discussion right now. that we've already had. So what Ketty and I will present in this part of the presentation is kind of to show you what the process is for an MA when they implement RBM. Also, we will be presenting the objectives of a regional results-based management project team that has been formed, and then also present the key milestones for the coming years. And again, we'll open up the floor for further questions or comments. So just to give you an overview of the implementation roadmap that each member association implementing RBM will go through. And the implementing MAs in EUCB are Israel, Uzbekistan, Bosnia, Macedonia, and Belarus this year. So what we did basically, or what we always do, is to start with a readiness survey. So 2 years ago, actually, together with IPD colleagues, a readiness survey was developed and sent out to member associations to assess whether they have the willingness and management buy-in to implement RBM, the necessary resources. So do they have staff, M&E staff or an IPD advisor, and knowledge and capacity to implement RBM? Have they had previous project cycle management trainings, experience with donor liaison, and also to check what elements are in place, and then what the trainers, the RBM trainers, do prior to each workshop is they do a distance scan of existing results-based management practices. So it really means looking at different documents that are in place in a member association and assess the gaps and areas for improvement, which can then be worked on further in the workshop. So it's really important for us that the kickoff workshop is tailored to the needs and capacity of the MAs, and so each agenda is then formed accordingly to this scan that we do in advance. So globally, there's a pool of results-based management trainers who are certified internally, and they then do a country workshop in pairs, which lasts up to 5 days. So in this pool of results-based management trainers, there are also PSA colleagues. So this has been a good practice so far to have a trainer from a region and also a trainer from a PSA conducting the workshop. And key deliverable of the workshop is then to develop a 3-year RBM national implementation plan. And an additional thing that we in UCB also encouraged the implementing countries to do is to write a project charter and form a national results-based management implementation team to steer the process in the coming years, because it shouldn't be just a program-led process. It should be a multifunctional team on national level that's steering implementation. Yeah, and then during the implementation phase, there should be monitoring of the implementation going on national level as well as on the GSC. However, so the follow-up from GSC level, so from the regional office, that's still being worked out by the regional results-based management team. So we really have to figure out in detail how, as advisors and as CVI reps, we'll be tracking the implementation of results-based management going forward. And then, of course, in the final stage of the cycle, we would also encourage member associations to use their results for learning and management. So it's really kind of having a deep look into evaluation reports, seeing how we can translate actions in translate recommendations into actions. Are we documenting promising practices and good practices and replicating them and ensuring practice exchange between member associations? We can use the results and information from the program database and evaluations in board meetings, in ongoing reporting with donors, and so on and so forth. So that's also a core block, and it's at the heart of results-based management, to really use those results for various purposes. Yeah, so Ketty, if you would like to now talk about the status quo of implementation in member associations in our region.
Okay, Rosie. Yeah. So what is being done up till now? 4 RBM kickoff workshops conducted. One already last year, end of last year in SS Macedonia, but also this year in SS Belarus, Israel, and Uzbekistan. And it's one remaining workshop among those that were planned, will be conducted in autumn in SS Bosnia and Herzegovina. Overall, we have counted briefly, we have trained up till now in these 4 member associations up to 50 co-workers, which in our understanding is a good result.
We seem to have lost Ketty. I'll just try to bring her back in.
Hi, Roger.
Hello, Ketty. Welcome back.
Sorry. So if some of those, I think you heard about number of co-workers trained, and if some of them at least will become RBM champions and will spread knowledge among their peers and colleagues in programs, that would be already great success. Then, as Rosie mentioned, we ask member associations, and this is part of our regional approach towards implementing RBM, to develop national project charters. And up till now, just recently, I received 2 project charters from 2 member associations. And the idea is that these project charters basically will develop, will provide information on general strategy for implementation of RBM entirely in member association. Will inform about the composition of national team. Will inform about the resource implication. Will define key milestones, as typical project charter components. And of course, once those are finalized, we will also share those documents. Everything will be available on a collaboration platform, so that if you want to take a look what is being planned, you can do so. But as part of RBM implementation process in programs, we also ask national associations to provide more, as a result of the workshop, more detailed RBM implementation plan that basically details action for specific programs, if this program is in focus of implementation in the first year, and so on. So there are basically two levels. One is generic level, where we see implementation, and more detailed objectives on the level of program. As mentioned by Rosie, up till now we have experience of having PSA representation in during 3 workshops. It worked really well. It was personally for me first experience of working so closely with PSAs, and I don't know, I'm really excited about this practice, and I hope it will continue. And in fact, it doesn't matter if even PSA is funding specific member association in our region or not. It's interesting for them. It has many benefits, a part of them supporting and being co-trainers, but also getting to know specific member association better, understanding their strategic development, and frankly speaking, just sharing. Up till now, all PSAs that took part in our workshop, they were really excited by the work done by the member associations. That in all cases, it was really a good practice. And last but not least, we also had 2 cases in 2 member associations when participation of board representatives, mainly a president of the board, was ensured. They were invited for the first, let's say, day, or to the first day of the workshop, and that was also a very good practice. When a board member or a board president has clear understanding what the result-based management is about, how busy the member association will be in this area, what could be a positive outcomes, or what could be a benefit for board members themselves. That is also considered to be a good practice, and we try to motivate member associations to invite board representatives for the workshop. In general, what we could observe, this is just purely now feedback from Rosie and myself, and I can say also from PSA representatives, high engagement of member associations, focus countries, both at the stage of preparation for the workshop, during the workshop. Workshops are highly participatory, highly, despite the fact that sometimes there are language issues, sometimes there are some hesitations, critics, what to say, also sometimes that concerns about how program co-workers and CDPBs can handle and manage the process. They're all, types of feelings actually present during this workshop, but nevertheless we can say that overall tendency is quite positive, especially in case of new program directors, which I also have to highlight. With long-term co-workers, it's a bit more challenging, I would say, because probably these people went through different processes, and this is another process that is just now coming on their shoulders, and they're not always extremely excited, so to say. So we need to find the right balance between motivation, interest, and so on. And last but not least, if we can say what are the key priorities during this workshop, when we start preparing workshops in order to make them tailored to the needs and interests of member associations. Clearly, in all four cases of the workshops we had, key objectives and key interests for member associations was to us to support them and kick off work on results framework, works and monitoring and evaluation systems. That is a clear request from all member associations, and this is where they really themselves are interested to put all the effort. Because they understand that they want to see and understand and define results better and build related monitoring and evaluation system, which is largely missing everywhere. Rosie, anything from your side to this?
No, I think you've mentioned it already. I think I think one of the key things that we really have to ensure is to infect everyone with the RBM virus, and to be excited about using a results-based approach in our work and using evidence in order to plan and monitor our work. So I think, if we manage to infect 50 co-workers already and they can kind of spread it, then I think that would, be a good outcome already. Yeah.
What we can observe, if I may also add, and as I shared just a few minutes ago, yesterday, for instance, we had a virtual call of representatives of all these 2018 focused member associations, and in most of cases, maybe just except one member association, we can see clearly development. And that honestly made us really happy yesterday, Rosie and myself, because we are worried. There are many challenges. There are many challenges in the process. It's not an easy process, and as we could observe yesterday, movement towards implementation, that made us really happy. Mm-hmm. We cross our fingers for same development. Mm-hmm. Okay, Rosie, maybe next slide.
Yeah.
The last that we want to share, last part of our today's exchange, is that we want to share with you information about what are the objectives for our regional RBM project. Just to also make it clear, in order to support proper implementation of RBM in our region, it has been decided by the regional management team that we will set up implementation of RBM as a regional project. And currently we have a regional RBM project team consisting of representatives of different functions. We have Caroline, Wolfie, Sophie, Rusudan, Rosie, Aladdin, myself as a project manager, Nicola as basically internal consultant, and together with Tom, who is currently a project sponsor, Nicola is also, Tom and Nicola are acting as a steering team for our project. And here in front of you, Rosie, I think you have objectives on the screen, right? There are a few key objectives that were defined by the project team, and each of us basically is responsible for leading these objectives or these work packages. And from the regional side, let's so to say, we want to support implementation in countries, but also to make sure that we align our regional processes to the idea of RBM. And just shortly, what in terms of objectives, we want to have a clear 3 years RBM implementation plan prepared for the region that will define, this resource estimation for next 3 years, what is needed in terms of capacity, knowledge, human resources, and so on. Also, one of the major part of the work packages, to my point of view, is development or setting up RBM implementation support and monitoring structure that will include and define clearly roles and responsibilities on regional level for monitoring implementation of RBM in programs, in member associations. And this division of responsibilities should happen between line management and functions, certainly. In general, right now, that key role for implementation of RBM in the regions is with monitoring and evaluation advisors, regional monitoring evaluation advisors, and basically with PD function. However, we indeed try to make this process multifunctional, moreover, engage as much as possible colleagues from fund development and communication, because they really have intensive knowledge on relevant issues. So I hope soon we will come with more detailed description on how we can monitor and follow up on the process. And of course, we'll share these ideas with you. Then, of course, another major objective is support of solid implementation of RBM in member associations. And this is basically all about RBM workshops and time until basically the national RBM project charters and our implementation plans are prepared. And then basically this monitoring and support structure or process will define clearly what we do afterwards, how we then provide ongoing support and monitoring to member associations. And of course, we are eager to support exchange and good practice sharing among member associations. Right now, it's happening through virtual exchange, and also we are sharing some documents that are prepared as a result of these workshops or as a result of implementation process. And this will be done not only within the region, but we will also bring in also good examples of implementation from other regions. Of course, last but not least, we need to support usage of results, information about results in strategic planning and decision making. And this concerns not only national associations, but by analyzing those trends, information from data related to the results, we have to basically also take this into account while planning strategic development on the regional level. So that would be also one of the objectives, to see how we can build and use this knowledge on the results for for our own development, for modification, maybe even of portfolio of services provided to the member associations, and so on and so on. And last but not least, a very important initiative that is taken by our team is making sure that on the regional level also processes are aligned and optimized in accordance with RBM approach. So we are now trying to have a deeper look into planning, monitoring, and reporting requirements from IOR towards member associations, and we want to see whether there is any further possibility to simplify those requirements, especially when we see that we already have certain systems that can replace some manual collection of reporting or data or information from member associations and so on and so forth. So within our project team, we are also busy with this initiative. And last but not least, as regards to future outlook until 2020, if we take it as a milestone mostly, our current initial objective was that on the regional level goal for RBM implementation is that by the end of 2020, 70% of member associations have started RBM implementation and at least 50% have reached standard level of RBM at least in one program location. Full implementation, in our understanding, in all member associations will take a little bit longer than 3 years. We can estimate something like from 5 to 7 years. However, here again, it's important to mention that for each member association, the final milestone on when member association will function on a standard level of RBM is very individual and basically linked to existing baseline and status quo of existing RBM activities. Of course, in those member associations where majority of the processes are already aligned due to public funding processes and projects, due to other knowledge, due to state requirements, by the way, in some countries, one can expect quicker implementation of RBM. However, in other member associations, where this is really a completely new, so to say, or almost new knowledge, or we see that capacity on the level of relational association requires intensive investment in terms of time also and experience. Of course, we expect a longer process of implementation. In 2019 specifically, we plan implementation in 3 new countries. So together with 5 from 2018, basically, we will have altogether 8 member associations where we have either to kick off implementation, or 3 where we have to kick off implementation, and 5 where we would need to follow up on implementation of RBM. So this is quite a big number, in fact, considering that the process is quite challenging, resource and time consuming, and therefore this is our more detailed plan for 2018, and we have to see how we will continue further. Of course, here when we have defined a regional target by 70%, of course there is also a question on how in future we're going to cooperate with self-sufficient member associations. Ideally, and definitely our approach is that we are ready to support them to implement RBM. The only issue is that self-sufficient member associations are not, they are not, they cannot get action money for those actions for federation, and this is one of the action for federation. But nevertheless, if they are ready to fund it locally, we from our side are absolutely ready to step in with our knowledge and experience trainers and in terms of technical expertise. Yeah, Rosie, I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And we can open the floor for some last quick questions. We have about 5 minutes left. It's a lot of information to digest. Yeah. But if there are any remaining questions, please feel free to raise them.
Hi, Rosie. I was just wondering, is it possible that this presentation is uploaded somewhere on the workspace so we can kind of go back and, for some references and some, just like...
Of course. We'll be uploading the presentation. We'll share the link to the recording with you guys. And,
okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, and that will be the same space where we're also uploading implementation plans of member associations and related documents.
Cool. Thanks, Rosie.
And not only, but for your information, after each of the RBM kickoff workshops, there are minutes prepared. And specifically, I assume maybe not for all countries, but for the countries where you are working with and have specific interest, you can always take a look into those minutes and take a look what is being planned by the specific country.
Thank you for all the effort.
Thank you. We know that it was a lot of information. We're sorry, but that's, we are rarely all together physically, and in this presentation we had to put most of the issues. Did not manage to make it more interactive. Sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, I would say that then we can close. You know where to find us. We're open for any questions.
And thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rosie and Kathy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for organizing and sharing.